Hey everybody, and welcome back to Shou plays Seduce Me, the otome. Last time I stayed up chatting with my friends all night. This time I'm gonna shower and go to sleep so I could go to school. But it was really nice. Well, to the bathroom I go. I took a relaxing shower. Nothing beat hot water and the feeling of being clean. After drying myself, I promptly dressed in my pajamas and crawled into bed. A nice hot shower after a long day. I'm so glad to finally be in bed. It had been a really long day. I knew that I was wishing for something to change back in class, but I certainly wasn't expecting any of the things that happened today. And I have to go back to school tomorrow. I curled up on my side and tightly wrapped the blankets around me. I really wasn't in the mood to be returning to school, but my dad probably would make me go just for the sake of it. It's time to go to sleep. I reached out to the lamp on my nightstand to turn off the lights. However, my mind was so lost in the passing of my grandfather, and the thought of inheriting something so big that it haunted my mind the entire night until the next morning. I shook my head to try to clear the sleepiness out of me to no avail. I really didn't get any sleep last night. It's already time to wake up? Wait. School. As soon as I realized I had to go to school, I slid out of bed and looked at the mirror. That's a relief. Luckily, there was barely a bruise on my cheek. You had to squint to actually see it. I doubted anyone would actually notice it unless they leaned in really close. Could always wear makeup, but I wouldn't. I'd totally just leave it. Breathing out a sigh, I got dressed, took my backpack, and caught the bus to go to school. It wasn't even hours before everyone heard of the news. I was approached in school and given condolences for my loss. However, that wasn't what shocked my friends.
Wait, so you have the whole Anderson house to yourself? Lucky as hell, man!
Yeah, it's pretty cool, except, the whole dead grandfather thing? That's not as cool.
Quit being so sensitive, Naomi.
Quit being so vulgar, Suzu.
Aw, come on, you guys, don't fight. You know what? Peebles is right.
Oh, man, come on!
I didn't... What? Huh? What? I didn't touch this.
See? She knows about proper public taste.
Yeah, I do.
I know how to be a lady. Sheesh.
Just 'cause you know doesn't mean you're going to practice it. I support that decision. Guys, I'm going there after school today because my parents want me to get used to living there.
Seriously? It hasn't even been a day since you came back to school.
I know, but my parents want me to try living there as soon as possible.
Still, that's really fast. Are you going to be okay?
No? Do you want to have a sleepover? Of course. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, totally. She'll totally be fine. But even in the comfort of my best friends, life seemed to keep testing me. Ugh.
Hey! Don't go around shoving people like that.
Whoops. Did I strike a nerve, Capini?
Oh, you look, kinda scary, actually. She let out a small laugh as she twirled her hair around her finger. Lisette, one of the last people I wanted to see today.
It's not me you should be apologizing to.
She's right. You should be apologizing to Samantha.
Oh, Anderson. Hey, how's it going?
Not good. My grandfather just died. I'm alright.
Haven't you already heard, Lizette?
Of what?
Her grandfather's passing.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I don't really watch a lot of news.
That's really insensitive, and I don't think I like you anymore.
It doesn't really sound like you mean it.
I do mean it. Earnestly. Why wouldn't I?
Because of the attitude in your voice?
Typical Capini. Isn't her family involved with the mafia or something? I wouldn't be surprised if she brought out a bat from behind her back right this moment.
Do you have a retainer? Because you've got kind of a lisp going. I had nearly forgotten the crowd that followed Lisette, which was mostly comprised of people that no one wanted to see on a typical school day. No one had the slightest idea why exactly they followed Lisette around persistently, but they labeled themselves as social equals with her.
That is out of line. Suzu comes from an honest family.
Says the one whose family profits from political scandals.
Ooh, I don't like these girls you hang out with, Lisette.
Yeah, your dad doesn't make anything unless he's in the court with dirty politicians.
That is so uncalled for.
Hey, let's all calm down for a second, alright? I'm sure Anderson needs some time to recuperate. I mean, what just happened? We need to give her some respect.
Wow, Lisette, you really did mean it. Thank you. Just stop. Stop acting like that already. Like you feel sorry for me.
What are you talking about?
I'm sure you're happy seeing me like this. You already have everything you've wanted, and now seeing me like this, life couldn't get any better. Bitterness seeped into me, and words started flying out of my mouth without filter. But honestly, I didn't care. I was so consumed by anger that I only saw Lisette in front of me. What exactly am I to you? Just another part of your obstacle course? Is that what I am? I'm sick of it, Lisette. I'm sick of all these charades. I'm sick of you. Gasps rose from the crowd around her, and I was brought back to the school hallway. Even my friends beside me looked at me in surprise. One girl looked like she was going to speak up, but Lisette held her hand to stop her. There was an emotion on her face that I couldn't quite make out, but I could see a form of pity in her eyes. No, don't you dare pity me. I looked away from her. I didn't want to see that emotion in her eyes when she was talking to me. She didn't have the right to look at me that way.
I'm sorry. I know your grandfather passing away must have really taken a toll on your emotions.
She stepped towards me and put her hand on my shoulder, giving me a tiny smile, as if for old time's sake. But for some reason I didn't feel comforted at all. Not that I was just angry at her, but the expression on her face when she leaned in close to me contorted into something complex. Something was different about her. I couldn't quite place my finger on it, but something about her had definitely changed.
Well, I'll be going for now. Track meet responsibilities and all of that stuff. See you later.
You're trying to be nice, but at the same time you're so lighthearted, I don't know what to think of you. Something about Lisette made me feel uncomfortable. I wasn't just angry, but also uneasy. What was it? I had never seen her like that before. But I decided to pay no further attention to it. She continued running down the hallway with her gaggle of friends behind her. I refocused my attention to Mrs. Phillips, who was walking down the hallway towards me.
Is everything all right, girls?
No.
Nothing we couldn't handle, Mrs. P. Just a bunch of snobs.
Suzu, hush! It was nothing, Mrs. Phillips.
I see. Well, Miss Anderson, please accept my condolences for your loss.
Thanks, Mrs. Phillips. Thank you, Mrs. Phillips.
Your grandfather was a good man. He really upheld the philanthropy of his company's policies, and the money that went towards charity, too.
Yeah. I know. He was amazing. I really looked up to him, and I want to be as good as he was.
Well, I know that you'll be as great as your grandfather.
Hell yeah, she will. She'll be 10 times better than her grandfather.
I hope so. Would I? Would I really be better than my grandfather? Everyone seemed to have high expectations for me. I wanted to do my best and make my family proud, but to be better than my grandfather? I wasn't sure about that. From outside the school window, I saw a familiar blue car pull up on the curb. Undoubtedly, it was my father in the driver's seat. Oh, my ride's here. Well, I guess I'll see you both tomorrow.
Want us to come with you?
Yes? Oh, no, it's okay. I'll be fine. See ya. Hey, Dad.
Hey, honey.
I don't like you right now. As I got into the car, I noticed my father looked troubled, clutching at his steering wheel and staring straight ahead, as if something was really bothering him.
About what happened yesterday. I'm sorry for yelling at you. Does your cheek still hurt?
I'm gonna lie and say yes because I hate you right now? No, it's nothing to worry about.
I mean it. I shouldn't have laid a finger on you. You know that you're my most precious daughter. You're all that I have.
He's being really sincere, and I like that. Yet he couldn't bring himself to say what he could never say to me for such a long time. I always wanted to hear those words to affirm how he really felt. But I guess even now, he couldn't say it to me. I turned my head away to look out the window. There was no point in waiting for something that was never going to come. And like that, he started to drive, and the conversation between us ended. I decided to focus my attention on the passing scenery. We were taking the usual route to Grandfather's house. It was located within the vicinity of the school district, but it was still pretty far from the school and from where our house was. He had always lived alone. He insisted on doing things by himself, even at his age living in such a large house. I wondered, did he pass away with no one at his side as well? It sounded so lonely and sad. It was strange that he decided on living all alone in his large estate. If anything, he could have lived with us. Though he and my father probably would have given each other the silent treatment the entire time. Maybe living alone was preferable to that. Having been given the silent treatment, I think I agree. I'd rather live alone. I actually hadn't visited him for quite a while. Visits to his house were most frequent when I was a child, and I had grown up long since then. The last time I visited, though, I thought he looked just as he usually was. Happy, healthy, but things change. In the back of my mind, I knew that he would have to leave one day. It wasn't like humans could live forever. Or could they? So why did my heart still feel so heavy? Because you miss him. He left you. He didn't mean to, but he left you, so you miss him. The car ride was mostly spent in silence until he spoke up again.
How was school? Maintaining your grades, I hope.
What's it to you? Yeah, I've been trying my best so far.
Trying? That's not really doing the best you can, is it?
Well, I'm glad I get to live alone because I don't really like your criticism, dude. With my father, only some words I said were filtered through his ears. It was so difficult to keep up a conversation without eventually talking about academics or my future, even if it was something loosely based on it. He always found a way to integrate it whenever we talked.
Anyway, your belongings are in the trunk. There isn't a lot, so I'm sure you can manage bringing them inside the house. After all, you are on the road to being independent now.
You're not gonna help me bring them in? Yeah, I can manage on my own. Not that I need your help. Jerk. The usual silence resumed between us. I really wasn't sure what to say around him, especially when most of the time we didn't share the same opinions. One question did linger in my mind, though. If he was going to justify acting so nonchalant at Grandfather's funeral, I had the right to at least know why. Try again. Say, Dad, about you and Grandpa.
We are not talking about this.
Why not? I feel like we should be, because Grandpa did leave us yesterday, so...
I wouldn't care if he had left even long before that. I do not want to hear it, and that is the end of this conversation.
I'm an adult, and you will treat me with respect, especially since you're dumping me off to go live in a mansion all by myself. Some caring father you are. As always, he managed to shut down any form of conversation related to him. It was just like what happened last night. I opened my mouth slightly, but I closed it again. It was like talking to a brick wall. It wasn't like I could find out anything by somehow arguing my way through it. All right, then. I leaned against the car door and stared out the window. I really couldn't think. What would this place be like? I had been to my grandfather's house before, but it was one thing visiting and another thing actually living there. How would I manage living on my own without any training to really care for a house? I knew that naturally the bills would be paid by my parents, who inherited grandfather's stocks to the corporation, but I had never lived independently before. Have you never had chores? Chores kinda prepare you for that a little bit. Thinking about it made me feel like some kind of bird being pushed out of the nest. Though I was technically an adult, I felt unprepared and a bit daunted at the prospect of actually moving into a new place. Most people my age would be ecstatic moving out. After all, it would symbolize some kind of change in their lives, like being on the road to independence. But I felt like it was nothing of the sort. Really, I hoped I wouldn't let my parents down. I wouldn't want to let grandfather down. What would he be saying right now? He'd be saying, do happy things to make you happy. I gazed up at the passing clouds in the sky. If you're out there, grandfather, how would you be doing? Would there be anything you'd want to tell me at this moment? And, of course, no answer. What was I doing? Searching for an answer in heaven that would or would not exist? I ducked my head to stare at the blur of trees and cars from the car window. My head was definitely going into the clouds there at the moment. Either way, I found myself being driven off to my new home. The car rolled to a stop and I drifted out of my thoughts.
Here we are. Go on in.
Thanks for the help. Alright, tell Mom I love her.
All right.
Love you, Dad. No, make sure to come by and visit us often. No, I'm going to miss you lots. Nothing other than a blank stare. I paused a bit before reaching for the car door handle, waiting for any form of a goodbye. But he didn't speak again. I sighed and exited the car. Hearing my dad pop open the trunk, I saw 2 large bags I packed last night that were large enough to carry only the things I needed. Like your cell phone and your Game Boy, and some clothes. I took them out, placed 1 bag on each shoulder, and closed the trunk. He then drove off, leaving me alone in front of the mansion. Not even watching you go inside to make sure it was, unlocked or whatever. I watched the blue car fade into the distance of the road before turning to see my new home. There it is. It's huge. My grandfather gave me this? It's hard to believe. The house was framed by a set of tall gates. I hesitantly pushed them aside to take in the entire estate. The house still looked like it was when I last visited him. At a glance, it seemed kind of intimidating with its size. Though, if I came closer, it was clear that there was more to it than that. The brick walls were framed by shrubbery and lovely flowers, giving it a homey and welcoming look. But in contrast, the tall doors into the house gave me a feeling of grandeur. Who knew what was waiting for me? But I wouldn't back down at this moment. I took out the key to the front doors and unlocked them. Oh, you have a key. Good. Well, might as well make myself at home. I'll be staying here for quite a while anyways. Probably your entire life. That's when I saw them. Lying on the floor was a group of men. They were all unconscious, but there was no explanation as to why they were there in the first place. I dropped my bags as I let the door close on its own behind me. And that's a good place for a cliffhanger, so I'll see you next time.